Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will not be on New York's ballot if this ruling stands. He was kicked off after a judge ruled that his petition to appear on the state's presidential election ballot is invalid, claiming he used an incorrect address to maintain his residency there. Now, in response to the state Supreme Court Justice Christina Ryba's ruling, RFK Jr. took to X, posting, quote, "This case is an assault on New York voters who signed in record numbers to place me on their ballot. The DNC has become a party that uses lawfare in place of the democratic election process. We will appeal and we will win." Now, the RFK Jr. has lived much of his adult life in New York, but moved to Los Angeles to support his wife Cheryl Hines' acting career. Per his lawyers, he's planning on moving back to New York after she finishes with that.
Democratically led Political Action Committee Clear Choice, comprised of New York residents, challenged Kennedy's residence in the state, maintaining his campaign had used a false address on the tens of thousands of nominating petitions. Monday's ruling could have a trickle-down effect in other states where the independent candidate has already secured a spot on the ballot. As of Friday, he was on the ballot in 19 states, including the critical battleground states of Michigan and North Carolina. The Bobby Kennedy campaign has submitted petitions or filed for third-party status in more than 20 others, New York included. He has until Thursday to appeal this decision, which his legal team signaled it will do, including filing a lawsuit in a federal court in Manhattan.
So this is very bad. It's insane. Let's be clear here. It's not, he doesn't need to live in New York to be on the ballot in New York. That would be crazy. He's not running for like senator of New York or like a Congress seat in New York. He's running for president of the United States. He's trying to secure access to the ballot in all of the states. So this isn't about like whether he lives in the district or something like that, which is a question sometimes when people seek Congress. It's just he listed as his address a New York address that his mail gets sent there, for other legal reasons is there. To be clear, it should not matter whether his technical address is in LA or in New York for whether he can be on the ballot in New York. He should be on the ballot in New York and California and Texas and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio and Idaho and every other state the way that every other candidate or the other major candidates are. Now, they don't have to do as much work because they're part of major party infrastructures. He's an independent candidate, so he has to spend money and recruit people to sign petitions to place him on the ballot in all the states, and he's doing that, and it's very difficult, but he's doing it. This is a blow to our democracy to have this judge try to prevent you, the people, we the people, I'm one of the people, I guess, from voting for this candidate at a time when we're told democracy is at stake and that the Democrats are the one that is going to rescue democracy from Trump. They're the people trying to keep him off the ballot. It's sick.
It's funny that the PAC is called Clear Choice, Robbie. They're only giving the people one choice. That's why the choice is clear.
They want to make sure the choice is very clear. It's not a choice.
As clear as possible.
Clear as crystal.
It's ridiculous. Obviously, he stays with his girlfriend in California, but that doesn't mean it's his legal residence or his house.
His wife, right? They're married.
I move around all the time. My home is technically in North Carolina, but I've been in D.C. doing this show for the past month and flying to Iowa on the weekends. This is how the world is when people can travel freely. I think it's silly. It's very obvious that they don't need to communicate to him at this address. It's not like they're sending mail that he's not getting because he's not there. They're just trying to get him off the ballot on a technicality. It's very obvious. Yes. There's no additional benefit to having his address be in New York. I mean, were they going to people's doors and saying, you should get this guy on the ballot because RFK Jr. is from New York? That's not a persuasive argument. That's not manipulating people to say, okay.
Exactly. It's not like the people who signed signed the petition to have him on the ballot feel duped. They're like, I would have only signed this if I knew his technical legal residence was in LA instead of New York. I wouldn't have put my signature down. Come on, that's ridiculous. It's patently ridiculous. The people who brought this lawsuit are Democratic activists who were recruited by a Democratic partisan organization to keep RFK Jr. off the ballot in that state.
I think it's interesting that in other states, like maybe Texas, RFK Jr. would be a threat to Trump. I'm very curious, state by state, who he's pulling away from. And we don't really conduct polling in this way, where we're I guess you could, because some questions
No, they do. They conduct.
Yeah.
They have a good sense of who he's. I mean,
subtract the voters, right?
Yeah.
It's in a Trump-Biden matchup only. Who would you pick? Then when
Right, they do
RFK
it both
Jr. is
ways.
added, who are the
Yeah.
people switching over? I'm curious what the polling shows in the state of New York. If more people are coming over from the Democratic side, is that why they're fighting this in New York?
Yeah, I don't know. The Democratic Party has long taken the position that RFK Jr. is a threat to them and is trying to pull every dirty trick in the book to keep him off the ballot, even as the polling has tended to show that RFK Jr. takes from both sides, or maybe even takes a little bit more from Trump. So it's not clear to me why they are behaving this way, except that ideologically they don't like independent challenges. They don't like third parties. They don't like him because he challenged Biden from within the party at one point. Remember, he was running as a Democrat. So maybe it's just spite. Maybe they do think that they're vulnerable to a challenge from him in specific states. And then in other places, they'd be happy to have him on the ballot. Like, yeah, maybe in Texas, he's taking from Republicans, and they see that as a good thing, so they're not going to challenge him there. But for whatever reason, in New York, they think he might. Maybe it's because it's the Northeast, the Kennedy name. There are Democrats who remember Kennedy fondly. It could be the case that he pulls more from Democrats in New York, but more from Republicans in other places. Like, that's possible. Again, he's still pulling from both people, and he's pulling substantially from a category of voters who are dissatisfied with both major parties and are not like going to automatically vote for Trump or for Harris. If that's all that's left to them, they might vote for the Green Party, they might vote for Chase Oliver, they might write in somebody, they might just stay home. Furthermore, this is all just ridiculous. He is a major candidate. He should be on the ballot in every state. He has to do a lot of work to get there, unfortunately, because that's the way our system works. But I find this decision just very, very troubling, very anti-democratic.
Yeah, by investing capital in a lawsuit during an election cycle to get him off the ballot,
yes,
it's a ridiculous move because, one, if you want Joe Biden to win, if you want the Democratic nominee to win, Kamala Harris, whoever, I think they started this before it was Harris, but if you want the Democrat to win, whoever it is, persuade the voters. Spend that money on advertisements, knocking doors, convincing them. But this is why people don't like the two-party system, because they use their power as a party machine and all of their donors to force people off ballots. This happens in primary elections within the party.
Yes.
If they're more progressive than the party elites, they get pushed out. They have their petitions questioned in a court of law. And if the Secretary of State in that state, which is someone who handles elections, if the state secretary doesn't like the candidate, or the party machine says, hey, there's this like progressive insurgent coming, we think they're a threat, take longer in processing the ballots, they will. They can game the system like this. This is precisely why people want to vote for independent candidates. It's goonish behavior like this.
Yes, it's really shameful, and we will continue to follow any legal challenges that arise there. RFK Jr., as we said, is planning on challenging that decision. Stay tuned, more Rising right after this.